Hey there, Adobe Live. Welcome to another very exciting Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge. I am your host, Jesus Ramirez. Sorry that we're a little late. YouTube was having some issues and we had some troubles going live, but here I am ready to go. Let me take a look at the chat and see if you guys are here. Yeah, hey guys, good to see you. I'm glad we're getting started with this stream. So let's just get right to it. We've wasted a few minutes trying to get the stream running, but here we are ready to go. So first things first, make sure that you go into behance.net/creative challenge and make sure that you, let me, I was messaging our support here, so now my notifications are on, so I turned them off now. So make sure that you go into behance.net/challenge/Photoshop and make sure that you click on take the challenge button and scroll down to where it says compositing. Actually, it looks like we're missing the get started file for today. Let me refresh it and see if it appears. There it is, double exposure. Make sure that you scroll down into March 26 and download the double exposure get started file. You can click on this button and you can click on the image and click on this button here that says download, direct download. I'm going to save it into a folder where I've been saving all my other daily creative challenges. And when it downloads, you can click on it and it will open up in Photoshop. Really quick before we start, I want to mention that you guys should go into the current challenge tab and on Discord, and the way that you do that is by going into the community chat where it says how does it work under behance.net/challenge/Photoshop. Click on community chat and you'll be taken onto Discord, and make sure that on the left hand side, like right above my head here, you click on current challenge. Actually, let me put it above my head. There it is, current challenge. And you'll be able to see the challenges that people have been working on, and I encourage you to submit your work. All right, so let's get started with the challenge for today. Before I do that, I just want to say, hey guys, thank you so much for joining me. I know we started a little quickly. I just wanted to get right into Photoshop because we lost a few minutes already, and I want to be able to show you all the tips and tricks that I have here for you. So thank you so much. I see, wow, a lot of people. Anna, Mia, Sam, William, Jennifer, Sean, Dr. Jacqueline Hyde, Sig Brown, Sean, Sam, thank you so much for joining me today. So this is the file that you're going to work with, and it contains a mock-up for a book cover that I made. If you're interested on how that book mock-up cover is made, then make sure you're subscribed to my YouTube channel because I have a video coming up on that. So this is the file that I'm going to provide for you so that you can use as a mock-up. So you don't have to worry about making it. But if you're interested in knowing how it's made, check out my YouTube channel. The video's coming soon. But basically, what you have here is two layers. You have a background layer, and you have a layer called book cover, which is the mock-up for the book. And all you need to do is double-click on it, and that's going to open up a new tab. And whatever you place in this document and you save, it will automatically get transferred over into the book, and that's the book cover. So you can use that for any project that you like. Obviously, make sure that you upload the book cover onto Behance or onto Discord. But that's how it works. So we're not going to work with the book cover too much in terms of the project. The project is going to happen more inside of the smart object. In case you don't know, a smart object is like a container. It's a file that can contain, that will help you. It's a file that will help you make adjustments, distortions, filters, and transformations non-destructively, which means you can always come back and change them. For example, I can disable this layer, enable this layer, save it by pressing Control-S, Command-S on the Mac, and notice how the book cover updates. And by the way, the book cover is made to scale and to the right aspect ratio of the book, so the images will not look distorted. And there's a special technique to make that happen. But anyway, we're going to work with this image, and we're going to create a double exposure effect. And it's going to be a little different than you probably have seen before. We're going to use a few different techniques. I'll get to that in a moment. I want to mention that you can use the image that I have here, this photo of this guy in the white background. Or you can take a selfie, just do it up against a white wall, and then make sure you make the background white. If you don't know how to do that, don't worry about it. It's very simple. I can even show you with one of the photos I have here in my libraries panel. I can just find something that has a background here, like for example, this young lady standing here behind a blue wall, which is, we use her in my previous set of daily creative challenges. But anyway, what you need to do is just make sure that you select any of the selection tools. Then you can click on select subject to select the main part of the image, in this case, this model. And I can go into the new layer style icon and select levels. Notice now that the levels adjustment layer will only control her, but I wanted to select the background. So to do that, just select the levels layer mask, go into the double click on it actually, and then you'll go into selected mask, but actually I didn't want to go into selected mask. Once you click on it once, the properties panel should open, and when that happens, click on the invert button, or you could also press Control I on Windows, Command I on the Mac, and from the levels you can just adjust how bright or how dark that background is. See that? And then you can throw a black and white adjustment layer on top of that, and you can keep adjusting it until you get a white background. So basically, this is what you need to do in order to have an image that looks more or less like this. So make sure that you have a white background and then make it black and white. So that's how I got to this point with this photo. So again, layer mask that selects the background, brighten it up, and then make the image black and white. Very simple. So what I'm going to do now is just close this file because we don't need it. And what I'm going to do is go into the first layer here, right? And I'm going to show you the old way, or not the old way, it's not really an old way, the way that most people do double exposure, which is totally fine. I've used that technique, I've taught that technique, but today I want to show you something different. But I want to show you both in case you want to use the technique that most people use. So basically you have a layer, right? And then you can enable another layer, and you can just change the blending mode on the layer on top to lighten. And Photoshop will look at the two layers and it will keep the brightest pixel. So it looks at the two layers, the brightest pixel stays. So if you have a white background, the brightest pixel will always be the white background because there's nothing brighter than white. So then you can isolate the shape of his face or a body, if you were using the previous example, to use it almost like a container for the image on top. And from here, all you need to do is just create a levels adjustment layer, clip it to the layer below, and you can adjust the brightness of that layer. And by adjusting the brightness, you can control how the layer blends. See that? Pretty cool stuff. So there's nothing wrong with this technique. This is a technique that a lot of people use and it works great, but I want to show you guys something different today. So feel free to use this technique for the challenge or the one I'm about to show you, or maybe even a combination of both, whatever you guys prefer. And by the way, right now if I were to press Control S, Command S on the Mac to save and go back into my book cover, you can see that the book cover is there. And I'm gonna select the photo of this guy's face with the move tool and make sure that I have show transform controls selected, press Control T, Command T to transform, and I can move him around and place him accordingly. I think he was in the right spot there. I think that the problem was actually the photo of the building. Just move it up a little bit higher, something like that, so that it covers like the entire image, like so. But anyway, you get the idea. When you save, you can go back and you can see how that updates on that book cover. So what is the technique that I'm going to show you guys today? It's a very simple technique that will allow you to use complementary colors to make things pop. And all you really need to do is double click to the side of the layer and uncheck one of these boxes here. See that, how it blends? It might actually work better if you take this layer and you desaturate it. You can go into Image, Adjustments, Black and White, and just make it black and white. And when you double click on it, you can uncheck these boxes again and you can see the result that you get. See that? See how it just blends these colors together? Really cool stuff. And just so that I can see what's going on a little bit better, I'm going to put this layer right above this background layer. And I could also double click on this layer and do the same thing, uncheck these boxes. See that? But in this case, the layer on top doesn't really blend. So it's better if you do the layer on top. So right now I have the lighten blending mode. I'm going to change that to normal, and then I can uncheck these boxes. And what happens is now that we have the normal blending mode, we are no longer using the white as a container for the shape. Now we could just have both layers appear. So if I uncheck red, the layer that you're currently on will become completely red, and the layer below will become the opposite of red, which is cyan. With green, the same thing. Green, the layer that you're on becomes green, and the layer below, which is a photo of the guy, becomes magenta. And with blue, you can probably guess what will happen. The layer that we're on will become blue, and the layer below will become yellow. And what if you want the opposite? What if you want the guy to be red, but the background cyan? Well, you disable the other two layers. The other two channels, the G and the B for green and blue, and then you get that resulting effect there. The cool thing about using this technique is that you're always going to work with complementary colors. And by working with complementary colors, they're always going to look good because complementary colors look good with each other. So this will give you a good result. And you can do what I was talking about earlier. You can select a levels adjustment layer. Click on this icon to clip it to the layer below. In other words, the adjustment layer will only affect the layer that is right below that. And I can click and drag on the slider in the center to control the contrast. And I can control the darker pixels. And I can control the brighter pixels with this slider. So adjust it as you need. Also with this point here on the bottom left, that controls how dark the darkest pixel is in this layer. So right now we're telling Photoshop the darkest pixel is going to be black because that point is all the way to the left, right on black. But if I move it to the right, notice how the gradient now becomes brighter. So now the darkest color is not black, is this shade of gray. And if I drag all the way to the other side, the brightest color will be essentially white. So that's why the background essentially disappears, because the darkest color, is now white, and the brightest color is also white. Pretty cool stuff. So you can just adjust these accordingly to better match your image. I also talked about how these are complementary colors, and we can actually just shift the hue, and you'll always work with complementary colors on this image. So if I create a hue and saturation adjustment layer and just shift the hue, so shift the colors in the color wheel, watch what happens. See, all the colors are still complementary. See that? Pretty cool. And it looks awesome. So you can select which shade of blue or cyan or, anything that you want that looks good to your eye. So something like that. And once you're at this point, because I'm liking how this is looking right now. So once you're at this point, what you can do is you can put all of this into a smart object. We're already in a smart object, but we can even put smart objects inside of smart objects so that we can still have that same flexibility. So now that we have this as a single smart object, I can treat it as a single layer. So I can go as a single photo, excuse me. So I can go into filter, camera raw filter. It's going to look a little weird because I'm taking account of all the layers. If you don't want that to happen, if I'm not mistaken, I think that if you put it all into a group, and I think if you press Control A, Command A to create a layer mask, and then you put it into a smart object, it shouldn't do that, but we'll see. This is an experiment. Put that into a smart object, filter, camera raw filter. Okay, so it keeps it contained so you don't see the other layers that were on top of that, because now it's on that group inside of that mask. So if you just wanted to see the actual image that you're working with. So now that you're here, you can treat it just like a single photo. You can go into the texture and drag the texture slider to the right to bring in more texture. See that? See how I'm just bringing out all that texture? It just makes those details in the face pop. You can increase the vibrance if you want. In this case, I probably would maybe even decrease the saturation because I want to, it just seems a little too saturated for my taste. So just bring it down just a tad. And I can adjust the highlights of the image, the shadows. So you can do whatever looks good to your eye. This is all very subjective. So you may think it needs to go brighter. Somebody else may think it needs to go darker. Do whatever you think is best. Also, you can increase the sharpening just to get really nice sharp edges if you want. You could also, of course, you know I'm going to do this. I'm going to go add some noise or grain to the image like so. And you can add some vignetting if you like. When you're done, you can press OK. And it makes those changes. You can see the smart filter here in the layers panel. You can click on this icon to see the before and the after. You can see that there. And when you're done, press Control S, Command S on the Mac to save. And you can go back into the double exposure book cover starter PSD, and you can see that the book cover is now on that book. And the shadows match, the fingers match, it all works out pretty good. Let me make sure that there are no questions. I know I went fast as I usually do, so these are recorded. You can watch them. But yeah, let me just make sure that there are no questions. Blue and orange is my go-to color scheme. Mine too, Sam. Double click on the icon of the book cover layer and the smart object will open up in a new file tab. Yeah, so if you cannot see the layers that I was working on, make sure that you double click on the layer thumbnail for this smart object, the one that has this little icon on the bottom right of the thumbnail. Double click on that. It will open up in a new tab and you will see all the layers that we are working with. Let me see if there's any more questions. Jasper, you're welcome. Can we use Alt-Click trick to fade this? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Sig, Alt-Click trick to fade this. I don't know which Alt-Click trick you mean. The only thing I'm thinking about when it comes to fade, because I mean, explain what you mean by Alt-Click to fade, and then maybe I could answer that question. Cool. So I included another image in this document that is this city. So in case you wanted to use something different for when you're doing this challenge, you can use this second photo. Remember, everything is non-destructive, so you can always double click on the smart object to go in there and make an adjustment. I can, for example, crop this giant smart object that I created because it doesn't need to be that big. So put that there, and I can open this up, double click on the hand tool to fit the screen, and I can make an adjustment. For example, if I change my mind, I can shift the hue somewhere else, close it, save it. Notice that the smart object applies the change, but I just gotta center it because I cropped it, but there it is. Control S, Command S on the Mac to save, and it appears over the book. Obviously, you can add a text to the book. So that's part of the challenge, actually. Why don't you come up with like a good book name and put the text on top of that. And to put the text on top of it is very easy. All you need to do is select the horizontal type tool, select the font. Montserrat Black works fine, and I can just call this Lorem Ipsum. That'll be the title of my book, Lorem Ipsum. Only because I have about a minute left. So Lorem Ipsum, there we go. That's the title of my book. And I'll save it, and it will appear on the book. Obviously, I probably need to make it not as wide. That seemed way too wide for what I wanted to do, but anyway. Save it, and I go back into my working document, and there it is. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching me. Sorry about that late start. YouTube was giving us some issues, but luckily we made it. And we got the daily creative challenge going. Make sure that you go into behance.net/challenge/Photoshop, click on community chat, go into Discord, and under current challenge, make sure that you submit your work. As you can see, a lot of people have been submitting their work and it looks amazing. If you're not caught up, no worries. Feel free to catch up and upload it when you can. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure that you stick around. Terry White is up next. So It was awesome to see you guys. I'll see you guys again tomorrow for another Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge. All right, guys, I'll talk to you guys soon, and I will see you later. Bye, guys.